A gauntlet, as they say, has been thrown. Or, as the case may be, one Sunday best glove circa the 1950s. Very dainty, very demure, very oddly specific. Now, I don't generally like to get involved in other YouTubers' beefs, but I do believe in science. After all, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, and the way a dress fits can be just that. Shirtwaist dresses, or just shirt dresses, which is the term I grew up with in the 80s, work for everyone according to Serena. Her commenters apparently disagree with that notion. Our mutual friend Ashley suggested she prove it, so here we are. Plus-size lady making a shirt dress. And feeling strangely like I'm back in high school with all the then she said, but then she said. That's not nostalgia, folks. That's a bad trip. For my new viewers, welcome. And for my returning viewers, welcome back. I'm Mare, and it's been a long time since I was in high school. There's a reason YouTube says my demographic doesn't resonate with high schoolers and young adults. I am not familiar with the wonders of Skibbity Toilet. My memes are generally informed by trial, error, and the iconic pop culture of the 1980s that ensures David Bowie's package will live on long after the original film for Labyrinth disintegrates into a vague celluloid mass. It's the Shirtwaist September Challenge. We're doing the whole collaboration thing. Playlist, egging each other on. Sisters are doing it for themselves. If you want to join in on the fun, make or wear your favorite shirtwaist dress, post it to YouTube or Instagram, and tag it with #ShirtwaistSeptember. The shirt dress of my youth was basically just a really long shirt that you wore loose or belted. There was a lot more stigma against plus sizes back then, so while my mum might have made me the dress, and I think she might have, I couldn't find a belt to save my life, which is a real shame because belts were a major accessory in the 1980s. Does anyone else remember that Brooke Shields collaboration with, McCall's? I thought it was just a fever dream until I found the shirt dress pattern listed online. I think she also modeled a flight suit. Wacky. So I'm not new to the shirt dress, but my previous experience is informed by the styles of the 80s, 90s, and the 20-some-odd year span that is the 2000s. By which I mean that I take a shirt, possibly from another era, say the 1860s or 1910s, and turn it into a fun little 1990s or 2020s empire-waisted baby doll by chopping it short and slapping a gathered panel skirt on it. In the spirit of the challenge, though, I'd like to try something a little bit different. It doesn't escape me that both Serena and Ashley and the majority of the folks who will attempt this challenge are really into vintage fashion, and I'm a dabbler. My personal time machine kinda takes me where the wind blows. I'm also not really able to just ring up Stephanie Canada and order a vintage shirtwaist pattern. I would hazard a guess and say I'm sized out of most, if not all, of the authentic, aesthetic, vintage patterns floating around out there. Am I going to let that stop me? Of course not. There are more modern vintage style options. I borrowed a handful of images from Stephanie Canada's collection, and if you see something that tweaks your interest, please consider going to backroomfinds.com and giving her your business. Heck, she has patterns up to about a 45-inch bust, so go give her site a gander. I'm looking forward to the day when I can hopefully make a dress from one of her authentic vintage patterns rather than having to either use a reproduction, a retro style, or mash something up on my own, because those were all definitely options. I considered trying something by Charm, and the Nicole dress by So Over It was a close contender. I may revisit that idea later, a little closer to Halloween. I could have also tried something like my usual shirt conversion by taking something like the Helen's Closet Gilbert top or Cameron shirts, altering the waist and possibly bust areas, and adding a full or three-quarter circle skirt depending on whether I was going for a more 40s or 50s look. That probably would have gotten me very close to the right silhouette. What really caught my eye though was the Asteria Dress by Jennifer Lauren Handmade. It has a vaguely vintage 40s to 50s silhouette. The blouse is less converted man's shirt or converted button-down that really defines the standard shirtwaist than it is a mashup of a square neck plus collar, which is a bit unusual but not totally out of the realm of authenticity. I found this example from the 1940s from Stephanie's shop showing a shirtwaist that can also be made as a button front dress with a square neckline. Very similar. I'm working off my fabric store haul with Ashley a month or two ago, and I'd picked up this purple linen with this project in mind. It's been through the wash with an old threadbare fitted sheet that's going to be sacrificed to the Mockup gods. I have to do some adjustments, mostly to accommodate my
huge tracts of land.
My pattern is already traced out from my projected digital file, and I've saved back my larger paper scraps with the intention of using them for adjustments. I need to do a full bust adjustment and grade out the side of the bodice to size 32 so it matches up with the skirt. The pattern specifies the F cup is 49 3/4 inches. My full bust is 51 inches right now. The finished garment measurement is 53 3/4 inches. I could probably get away without the full bust adjustment, but the bodice would be a bit snug, and goodness only knows how long it would take for me to shrink into the size. It could be a month or two, it could be tomorrow. Weight loss is neither linear nor predictable. The pattern also gives the arm's eye size. While my high bust indicates I should start with the size 22, I'm a little concerned about the size of my upper arms and the armhole. I checked the arm size measurement and I could get my arm through the armhole for the size 22, but why tempt fate? I'm going to do a mock-up, and not just because Ashley suggested it. If I have to enlarge the arm size in the sleeve, I'll do a quick alteration and see how it looks. And yes, for my mock-up, I'm using that old threadbare fitted sheet that was destined for the rag bag. Glamorous. I mean, no, seriously, the sheet is Pima cotton and it's really shiny. One of the patterns I traced out for my projector video the other week was the Asteria Dress. So first order of business, cut out the pieces and make adjustments to the front bodice and sleeve. Pattern pieces, like boxes, are perfect cat traps. Thank goodness I didn't trace on tissue. Ashley made a detailed video about bust adjustments. I referred to it often while altering this piece, hence the laptop in the background. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a woman in possession of a roll of tape must be in want of a cat. I'm still not comfortable with showing my arms, so I lengthened the sleeve and also did a full sleeve adjustment. The pattern gives the sleeve measurements and I needed a couple of extra inches. This method adds width without altering the arm size or sleeve cap length. Well, hello there. Just poking my head in here to give a heartfelt thanks to my channel members and Patreon supporters, because they're a big part of the reason I can pick up a gorgeous linen blend like this one. I may be shopping from the clearance section, but your girl does like the good stuff when she can nab it. I have a really fantastic community of supporters, and I'm so glad they're around to give me a bit of encouragement when I'm falling behind, or just keep me motivated when I'm working through challenges. You folks are the best. If you'd like to join my little craft coven, there's a link to Patreon down in the description, or you can become a channel member by clicking on the button under the video. If you're not up for that kind of commitment, that's okay. I'm just glad you're here. Maybe boop the like button or hit subscribe if you haven't already. It's silly, but I do like to see the numbers go up. Alrighty, back to it. So here we have the mock-up, or at least most of the mock-up. You will notice that it is not a shirtwaist. I decided to go with the square neckline just for expediency's sake. If this turns into a wearable mock-up, I'll probably wear it around the house because it is a glorified bedsheet. I am not particularly happy with the bust. Does anybody remember Reboot, a TV show from the 1990s that was completely computer generated? It aired on ABC, if I'm not mistaken, and they didn't want the main female character to have a defined chest, so it was just sort of this block. Those of us who used to watch the show used to call it the monoboob, and that's what this reminds me of. It reminds me of Dot Matrix's monoboob. So what I'm probably going to do is take out the 2 darts at the side and just put in 1 dart, possibly a little farther back, just so it's a little less pointy. Also, one of the things that I noticed is I did not account for the added length in the front when I was cutting out the back. So I have gone into the pattern and I've changed that around so that the pattern pieces now match up. Any length that I added in the front is now reflected in the back, minus whatever I think it's going to need taken off from the waist, because I put in about 2 inches. I only really needed about 1 inch. So that's good. Anyhow, I am going to rip some seams and watch some WandaVision because I would like to watch Agatha all the way, but I can't until I watch WandaVision. I'm getting caught up. Either way, on to completing the mock-up, and then we'll see what happens with the actual dress, because I'm hoping to get that cut out today. I may have bitten off a little bit more than I can chew. I entirely blame the sea of neutral that is the mock-up for this, but I started thinking that I really needed something to accent the Asteria dress, and something kind of gothy that will take me through from fall into winter. So I started crocheting a cape from a 120-year-old pattern. Well, it's kind of a 120-year-old pattern. I took a look at it and I started working on it because of course I did, and quickly realized that it was missing an entire row of stitching. Well, more than an entire row of stitching. Essentially what I did was I took a look at the original instructions and then took a look at what the modern instructions for the same stitch would be, and decided to go with the more modern instructions as well as the construction of the original garment. It's going to look really good when it's done. I have no doubt about that. It's going to look gothy. It's going to go with the Asteria. It'll probably take me from fall to winter with a number of different outfits. So I have absolutely no doubt it is going to look amazing. It's just fingering weight yarn. So while this is probably about 3 or 4 nights worth of work, it's still 3 or 4 nights worth of work, and I don't have that long to get this video out. So this may be a project that you see going for a little while. So this is the cape/shawl we're dealing with. It's from Columbia Yarns circa 1904, I do believe. This part is the top, it's the yoke, and the bottom, I don't know how well the light's going to pick it up, but it is this absolutely gorgeous purple, violet purple. This is Knitpicks Hawthorne, and I think it's something like Eclipse Moon or Eclipse or something like that. And this is Zen Yarn Garden Merino sock, I do believe, in, I think it's Purple Splash or Grape Splash, something along those lines. I've got the tags around here somewhere. Either way, you're probably going to see this project for a little while. If for some reason I do manage to get it finished up for this video, it will be in the reveal, but considering I'm working with fingering weight yarn, I don't think that's going to happen. So it may not be this video, might be the next video or the video after, but there will be a gorgeous Edwardian cape in my future. It keeps my fingers happy in the evening time when I'm not sewing, And it gives me something to fight with the cats about because all they want to do is eat the yarn. I'm hoping that I've got enough yarn here. These are each 100-gram ball of sock yarn. I am dealing with about 300 or 400 meters of yarn in each, 300 or 400 yards of yarn in each. I'm approximating, so here yards and meters are kind of interchangeable, but 100 grams worth of sock yarn is usually enough to do 2 socks or 1 shawlette. So I'm hoping that this is enough to make the entire capelet / shawl. We will see. Anyhow, I think I've got the mock-up pretty much sussed out. Front looks good. The back is now looking good. I've got the bust darts where I kind of want them. It's a little big in the chest, but I have a feeling that has more to do with me than it does with the pattern now. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that. Either way, I think it's time to take my pre-washed linen over to the dining room table and get things cut out. I started with serging my pieces and putting together my waist ties. One of the benefits to doing any kind of mock-up, I think, is getting familiar with the garment on a structural basis so you know where you can prepare in advance. That's why I started with prepping a bunch of seams I could run off in advance, like attaching pockets to the skirts. I also added interfacing to my collar, and once that was done, prepped the collar, the facings, and the shoulder seams of the front and back bodices. I found the walking foot on my sewing machine really helped. The way the thread fed off the cone I was using caused some tension issues, and the walking foot was just one of the methods I used to mitigate the problem. Yes, I added a pegboard to the sewing area when you weren't looking. The waist ties were probably the fiddliest bit, so they also got some early attention. With all the smaller things prepped, I could then get to sewing everything together. I even added the gathering stitches to the sleeve cap so I wouldn't have to mess with my tension too much. Batching seams also meant batching ironing, which really helps when you have 2 young cats who like to jump up on your ironing board. So pockets, facings, shoulder seams, and bust darts all got pressed out at the same time I was working on interfacing, sewing, and trimming the collar. Not exactly according to the methods outlined in the instructions, but it seemed to work for me. You'd think I'd just attached the collar and went on to sewing the facings in, but what I'm not showing you is my utter flub of sewing the bodice fronts to the wrong shoulder seams, picking back and re-sewing. You're welcome, I spent that time so you don't have to. With everything in the right place, I sewed it all together and called it a night. As is a fine tradition around these parts, the husbeast pulled me out of the basement last night around 2:30 in the morning, and I entirely blame the collar of the dress. It's not a difficult piece to work around, it's just awkward. And I think I've mentioned it before, but I don't like facings. Facings to me, I understand their purpose, and I am sure that there are folks who will put into the comments why they're necessary, and I get it. I do get that facings are a necessary evil. I just don't like the way that they flap around. And from what I was seeing in the instructions, and who knows, maybe I'm just skimming them again and not reading them very clearly, but I haven't seen a whole lot of instructions about things like turning under your edges and sewing down your raw edges of your facings or other raw edges. Maybe the seam finishing is implied, I don't know. But I'm very thankful that I've got my second, third, whatever hand serger, because basically all of the raw edges on the inside of the dress so far are serged. And if it's yourself, you could probably zigzag it or turn the edge under or something. I just find that would probably have made this job 2 times longer. It is a more detailed dress. It's not one of the simple basics like a Helen's Closet dress. It is simple. It is fairly basic, but it's simple and basic on another level up, which I find a little strange to say, but there it is. I think part of the issue with it is because it is a square neckline with a collar on it. It makes it a little bit more difficult than, say, just doing a regular shirt where everything goes to a collar and straight down the front. You don't have that decorative bit that you have to worry about. If you would be putting on a placket, well then the plackets would be meeting in the front and you wouldn't have to worry about putting it facing for that square neckline. So it's a pretty dress. It's more work. I guess what I need to do today is tack down the facing, figure out where the placket fronts meet, or rather the edges at the fronts meet, and at very least mark in where my buttonholes are going to go, put in the sleeve, and slap the skirt on it. It sounds simple. I was really kind of surprised at how much I got done yesterday, and I have a feeling it's because I was able to batch as many tasks as I did. I was able to serge a whole bunch of things from the get-go, having an idea of what was going to be encased and what wasn't. Made things like the waist ties right up front so they'd be ready to go when they were needed. So there was a lot of prep work that I was able to front load and get out of the way immediately. I have to admit I am feeling a little bit stressed because I'd hoped to get this done a little bit sooner. I didn't realize it was going to take as long as it did, and that's partially poor planning on my part and partially getting distracted with other things. I haven't had a chance to really sit down and work on the capelet over the past couple of days, so I guess maybe I'm missing that little bit of relaxation in the evenings. I've been trying to get a jump on editing instead, so we'll see how things go, and hopefully I'll be back to working on the capelet. As I've said, I don't believe that it's going to be in this video. If I'm lucky, I might be able to do reveal footage for the dress itself this afternoon or evening. And the capelet, I haven't even gotten to the skirt either. So that's going to be in the future. If you're interested in seeing how that turns out, keep tuned in, because eventually it will crop up. At any rate, this dress is not going to sew itself, so I'm going to get onto that, and hopefully I will see you again in the reveal. First order of business, which probably took the most time, was tacking down the facings. I used a combination of methods to smooth the fabric into place. I didn't want the facings to warp the drape of the dress, but I also didn't want them getting loose to flap in the open. I just used a catch stitch and made sure my stitches on the outer fabric were as small as I could get. Buttonholes. I traced the template on the facing using transfer paper, then went over it in friction pen. My automated buttonhole function was acting up, so I manually prompted the sewing machine to place the bar tacks in shift direction on each and every buttonhole. Only messed up once, and that flub will be covered by a button. With that done, I got to work on the sleeves. I folded the hem to the front, checked everything was matching up, and tucked under the edge. Finished it up with top stitching. I find folding forward on half sleeves looks cuter than folding under. Then I set in my sleeve. I'm very thankful my machine's sewing bed converts for sewing cuffs. The last hurdle was finishing the skirt. I put in the pleats, marked and ironed the hem, sewed the side seams, sewed the hem, and attached the bodice. And here, at the end, buttons. I considered plain black or white, but found these while I was sorting through my button collection, and they just pop. It was a no-brainer, and seriously makes the dress. Let's check it out in the reveal. Well, here I am on another porch. Honestly, I was prepared to like this dress half as much as I do. And the reason for that is after putting together the mock-up, I was prepared for everything to go together quickly and slick as a whistle, and I guess comparatively speaking, it did. Making the mock-up added on extra days that made it seem a lot longer than it actually was. I got the dress put together in 2 days. I don't think I could have made it a one-day make. I'm just not that quick. It's seeing the finished result that really made it pop for me, because as much as I love the fabric, I wasn't sure how it would turn out, particularly with the collar, and that's something I may actually tack down surreptitiously underneath just to make sure that it doesn't fly up. It is quite a stiff collar. The interfacing that I used was quite stiff. It works though, and that's, I think, the main thing when it comes to this. The buttons were a total surprise. I went looking in my box of cheap buttons for something that would fit with the buttonholes that are on here. I cut the buttonholes to the size mentioned by the pattern. They give you like a little template, and they just felt so big. particularly considering there's not a lot of overlap in here. I needed something that would fit the front of the shirt while also fitting through the buttonholes and not leave a whole bunch of gapping. And unfortunately, once I got everything on, there was a lot of gapping at the side of the buttonholes. So because I can't actually put this dress on over my head, I decided to just go in and from the back end mostly sew the buttonholes closed. So you can't actually unbutton the shirt. It is a full pull it over your head kind of dress. And that's fine. That's great. It's just something to remember down the line. The full bust adjustment worked great. I think I mentioned in my mid-sewing update that I had gone and done an entirely new full bust adjustment. And that was because I had found that I had added an entire extra inch to the bust that did not exist. I think going back and doing that again after the mock-up was just the right thing to do, because this bust fits so much better and it looks so much nicer. So I may go back to the mock-up and I might just recut the bodice piece with the new full bust adjustment on it, just to give myself one more dress for around the house. I did manage to cut out all of the pieces for the dress from that threadbare fitted sheet. If there's a bed sheet that really calls to you, fantastic. You know what? Use it for a house dress or something around the house. Maybe make pajamas out of it. Try out that pants pattern you've always wanted to try. I have still been working on my capelet and I'm almost done the yoke part. It's looking a whole lot better. Let me just grab this here. So the yoke is almost done. I got quite a bit of work done on it last night. We had some company over for a friend's birthday. As I said, it is fingering weight, so this is going to take a lot longer, but don't you just love the way that this purple goes along with the dress? This is going to look fantastic when it's done. So I will probably continue to give regular updates on the capelet. I'm probably about 3 star rows from starting the skirt of the cape. I've been trying to do a little bit more editing as I go along because I know that I'm under a time crunch for this particular video. I'd actually like my Shirtwaist September to come out in September. It's very possible this video will go up later this evening or early tomorrow morning, and that's fine. You know what? Make Shirtwaist September last all year, because shirtwaists, they actually look really good on quite a lot of people. I have been, of course, seeing all of the posts that Ashley and Serena have been sharing with the rest of the internet, either on Instagram or on YouTube, and it's been fantastic seeing the variety of bodies that the shirtwaists will fit. So I say just roll this on into October. You know, make yourself a spooky, scary skeleton shirtwaist. Maybe that should be the next part of this. From Shirtwaist September, make it spooky, scary shirtwaists. There we go. Again, I'd like to thank my patrons and my channel members for their support. I don't think I would have been able to get this linen if it hadn't been the support of folks like you. Fantastic. I am going to enjoy this linen while I can, because we are starting to get into the crisper fall weather. I can remember taking a look out the front window and seeing just this little tiny patch of yellow leaves on the neighbor's tree, and now the entire tree has turned yellow, and that's like in 1 week. It's time to get working on the whole Halloween stuff now. I think I'm gonna go in and have a cup of tea.